Welcome to this introductory video on JQuery. In this video, we're going to talk about what JQuery is, why we use it, and we'll talk about some basic syntax. And then in the next video, we'll talk about downloading JQuery and create some of our very first JQuery code. Now, the first thing you will need to know for this series is beginning JavaScript, because JQuery is JavaScript. If you look in the JQuery library, it's all JavaScript behind the scenes. So you will need to know beginning JavaScript. If you do not know beginning JavaScript, I suggest you go to my main channel page and there is a tutorial on beginning JavaScript. So again, JQuery is JavaScript, but it's actually a framework or library of JavaScript, common JavaScript code that you can reuse and reuse again. And the good news is it's all free. That's right, JQuery is an open source library. That also means anybody can contribute to JQuery. So that's actually good, because if someone creates a really cool feature, they can go ahead and add it to the library so that you can use it. The other point I want to make about JQuery is it's easy to use. You use less lines of JQuery than you do ordinary JavaScript. So again, everything that you do in JavaScript, you can do in JQuery. JQuery is also feature rich. You can build websites using JQuery. So there is a lot of functionality that you can use. And there's also a lot of cool effects that you can do. You can do animation, you can do sliding, fading, hiding, and all sorts of complex event handling. And we'll go through all of that in this series. Another nice item about jQuery is cross-browser compatibility. You do not have to worry about which browser version you're coding for. One line of jQuery will be compatible on all the different types of browsers. Now, jQuery uses CSS selector methodology, and isn't that great? CSS, in my opinion, is one of the best designed languages. And so they basically took one of the best parts of CSS and implemented that into jQuery. So selecting DOM elements is much easier in jQuery. And that also means if you already know CSS, it will be very easy for you to start picking up jQuery, because it uses that CSS selector methodology. So if you take a look at this basic syntax right here, this is some of the most basic syntax you can get for jQuery. It always starts with a $, and that actually represents the jQuery library. And then we have open parenthesis, and then you just put the selector in quotes, and that's it. That's all it takes to select a DOM element. So jQuery is really, really easy for selecting DOM elements. And you can see here, we can use a class selector, we can use an ID selector, a type selector, a descendant selector, and many other different types of selectors. So that's one of the reasons that jQuery is so popular. It's a lot easier to select elements. We don't have to use the get element by ID. If you took my JavaScript series, you will remember that one very well. That's done for us in the background when we use the ID selector. So that's really a nice thing about jQuery. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to get started with our first jQuery code. And I will also show you where to download the jQuery library. See you guys in the next video.